Okay. What's up, people? Welcome to my show where I bring in different people from different backgrounds to showcase their talents and specialties to the world. Today I have with me the privilege of meeting someone for the first time, Michael Moline. It's very nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
So, tell me a lot about yourself, like what it is you do, and then we'll dive into everything about why you chose where you're at now, and even your podcast at this school, Mostly Banter, which I gotta say is similar to my style as well.
So you said a lot on me. That'll be hard. Where do you want to start? Recently with Mostly Banter and work backwards, or just my background?
Your background. Let's start with your background.
Okay, so my background is I'm born and raised in Southern California.
Okay.
I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I grew up in what I call the Wonder Years, which was a television show for reference. And bounced around, didn't know what I really wanted to do. I did realize that I didn't learn a lot in school, as we were chatting a little bit beforehand, as to help me to become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. All of that I learned on my own, and I think I came into my own in my 20s. In my mid-20s is when I kind of figured things out. Went to a community college to start, as we mentioned, although I did have opportunity to go to four-year institutions, but I ended up saying, let me just go make my money and do my thing. So that's kind of my background there. My professional career started at a very young age.
How old?
Probably 11.
Ooh, okay.
I started buying and selling coins. I would hang out at the coin store. And something completely foreign to people that probably today, I don't know that there's any coin stores in the area that you could delve into, but before the age of internet, before the age of cell phones, the way you learn was encyclopedia. And I was always fascinated with somebody touching something through history. So the idea that I walked into a coin store once, and about my eye height, I saw an 1864 Indian head penny, and it was 10 cents. My imagination wandered and conjured up. That could have been in Abraham Lincoln's pocket, because I had learned that he was assassinated in 1865. Here's an 1864. He could have had this, and I eventually dreamed it. It was his. I have to own it. So I started hanging out and learning my trade that way, and then that developed and developed and developed, and you sort of learn business practices. I went to work for several institutions when I was young and in my youth, and did very well. The first one was a place here in Beverly Hills, as far as employment that was serious, called Superior, and I ended up at a very young age running the retail coin counter. So I would buy from people and sell to people and facilitate trades, and then you learn how to hone trades, and then you learn wholesale markets, and then you learn screens, and all of this is before the age of even a fax machine. So that was my, sort of golden age.
And that reminds me, is that what led to you becoming an entrepreneur? Because I understand that since 1980, you've had your own business, Advanced Coin. So I was wondering, you already talked about what led to that, but why did you create that? What led you to create that?
It's as simple as I needed to make and wanted to make money. And I never really wanted to work for a living. Working for a living was something I always said to myself was, I'm going to do something I don't like for money. That to me was work. So that didn't sound appealing. I would be happy to do it. I've done jobs when I was younger. I think my first actual job, other than a paper route or something silly, which didn't last long, was working for a Venetian blinds place and stringing Venetian blinds. And the pay was well, but it was just robotic manual labor, not something I wanted to do. But the owner was really nice, really liked me, and took me and was teaching me different parts of selling a job and giving a bid and doing all of those things. But when it came to making a living at it, I developed the skill of who wanted what. And I met a man here in Beverly Hills who became a very close mentor named Abner Kreisberg when I was really young. Because I mentioned I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and I rode my bicycle up over the hill for a certain venture to meet Abner and to do something with him, and you're just a great man. Helped me a lot. Mentors are a key. Who takes the time to help, you know? Pay
I
it
agree
back.
with that. Yeah, I mean, and I think that really develops in your teenage years in high school, because that's really time I notice elementary school and a little bit middle school as well. You grow up listening to your parents, believing that they're right, and not just your parents, adults in general. And then come high school, and even after you graduate and you get out into the adult world, you see adults aren't always correct. And the most important thing is to develop connections and network with people outside of your own home and your own parents, because in this society that we live in, it's all about the people that you know and who can help you with whatever it is you're passionate about. Unless you,
it's funny you say that. I don't know that that's striking the perfect chord, but it might for you. For me, I was with you when you're talking about like elementary school. It's more about my friends. Who am I going to meet socially? How am I going to do that? And then, you know, you grow through adolescence, and it's like the awkwardness and the insecurities of people. Does this person like me? I don't like that person. Oh, that person's higher up the chain or lower on the chain. I think all of that goes away as you gain confidence, or at least for me, as I gain confidence in life.
Yeah.
And that was easy to say. It doesn't really matter what somebody thinks of you or not. I wish that I could be 100% that way. I'm not. There's an adage on aptitude test, and it's a fun question. And the question is, and I would ask you, would you rather be liked or would you rather be respected?
Oh.
And it's a very tough one, because I would tell people now at an advanced age, always write down respected. Because at the end of the day, that's probably more important. And for me, though, as a person, as a human, to get to know me, it's probably more important for me that you like me as opposed to respect me. And I say that reluctantly. Of course you want both. But if you don't respect me, it doesn't really matter to me, because I don't need you to respect me or anything else. There's sort of an inherent need that whatever time we spend together, that you enjoyed, so I'm hoping you like it. And that's a very telling part of who I am. And that's all a part of growing up. In other words, I don't care if you aren't going to be around me or something like that. If you don't respect me, you're more than likely not going to do business with me. You're certainly not going to be a friend. You're not going to be in my inner sphere of influence. So it's like, what's the point? It's hurtful when somebody's not respectful to you, but it's probably even more hurtful, at least for me, if somebody doesn't like me. It bothers me a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, I want to get your viewpoint on this. When you asked your question and I'm listening to you, I'm also thinking about what I would say to that. And I'm thinking that with a tough question like that, I would rather be respected than liked, because of course not everyone is going to like you. It is important though with certain people that you come across who are just disrespecting you and they're trying to walk all over you. That's when you have to
draw your own line.
Yeah, like
well, I agree with that. I agree with that. But I'm just saying, if you said choose and you want to know my personality, and it's on a personality or an aptitude test for a particular job, I would deep down, I know what to write. You always write respected. But if you said, tell me about Michael Moline to you, I'd say, I'd rather you like this conversation that we're having today. Hopefully you respect me. I want you to do that, but it's not like, oh, I don't want you to disrespect or not respect me, but I do care that you spent some time. Oh, I had a good time with him. I remember him fondly. That's kind of important to me. But you're on right track. You're on the right track with that. And just to add to, growing up to, you asked about career and entrepreneurship. That came in that I realized that working for people is challenging.
Yeah.
You have to accept the way that they want to do it, how they want to do it. And I learned very young, going through school, like you said, adults aren't always right. Or you come to learn that they have flaws. Maybe they are right, but they're not. They have flaws, or they might solve a problem differently. There's more than one way to do something right in a simple task. There's a more efficient way maybe, and there's a different way, but at the end of the day, if you wanted to hammer the nail into the piece of wood, Does it really matter if you hammer it with major hits or if you hit it down a little bit?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the nail got down. So which way was right? Well, for me, it might have been, let me hit it 3 times and it's done and move on to the next. For you, it may be, let me hit it 20 times softly and get it down into it. At the end of the day, the nail's in the wood. So that's kind of how I would approach it.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about too is that if everyone would just put their egos to the side, it doesn't matter if you're older, doesn't matter if you're younger, and it's okay. It's a blessing to have different viewpoints. Just get out of just stop being full of yourself, put that to the side, and just listen.
Well, I like the word real. It's funny, you hit on a topic I find myself very unusual with, age.
Mm-hmm.
I clearly know how old you are, and you're guessing I'm older than you.
Yeah.
But it's never inhibited me. If anything, I've always gotten along with people that are older than myself as opposed to people that are younger than myself. And of course you have your peers. But I have friends that are 30 years younger than I am, and oh yeah, we're friends. Friends. And then I have friends that are my age group. And now it's harder because I'm getting older, but I have friends that are a lot older than I am. And I've always enjoyed that because I learn more from people that are older. I want to hear their stories. I want to learn from them. I want to have them mentor me or help me in any way to achieve my happiness, whether that's career, whether that's friendships, whatever it is, that's kind of what you want.
And you talked about one mentor of yours that you had from Beverly Hills?
Lucky, I had several.
Yeah, so what are any other mentors that really just got you onto that career
Well, in
track
Beverly
of
Hills,
yours?
several. I've been very lucky because I left from what I would say somewhat dysfunctional family background to sort of having to be on my own a little bit early.
Yeah.
My mentor is Warren Ackerman, who's a Beverly Hills icon. He's long passed away, great man. I met him through Abner. Another one was a really nice man who was in television and entertainment named Danny Arnold. He did several shows. One that's famous, you would not have heard of it, but it's called Barney Miller. Have you ever heard of Barney Miller?
I haven't.
So it was a fantastic television show, groundbreaking television show. And I've just been fortunate. I'm leaving out so many that have just picked me up and helped me. Hey, for football statistics, the great Ned Miller. He just saw something in me, taught me how to do statistics for football, and it's been something I've been doing now. I think this is like my 25th or 26th year of doing statistics. Right in there, probably 25 years of doing statistics. That's
and for the NFL?
Well, NFL, I started doing the Rams statistics in 2016 when they came back from St. Louis. But I did USC football statistics from 1999, right in that era.
Okay, very nice.
So I guess a nice thing to say at this point would be, for life, put a lot of things in the stew, but understand the most important ingredients are, like you had said, yourself. How do you feel about yourself? And for me, it's my family. Without any doubt, it's my wonderful wife and my 2 incredible children. And you wonder what you leave on the planet when your time's up. I know I'm a success. It doesn't matter how much you have economically. That took a long time to learn. My kids are a tremendous success. My wife is a tremendous success. Those are the things that people should draw on. And we're a little lost in that today because everything's about, the cell phone. And we're living, this is a new relationship that everybody has. You did not have this relationship when I was growing up. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's another and it's a different relationship. I have a relationship with my phone. I read someplace that somebody touches their phone like 2,000 times in a day. How is this possible? But if you really broke it down, you do. Well, that's another relationship. But the important ones are for me, my wife and my kids.
And just hearing you say that, I 100% agree with you, and I highly respect people who say that, because that's the type of life I want to live as well. It's a work-life balance, and there are some people who don't know how to balance that. So
I don't think anybody really knows. You said, I don't think anybody really knows. I don't know. I mean, you have to make choices, you know. The benefit of being, you used the word entrepreneurial, but how about I make money for myself? You know what I mean? If when I open my businesses, if I don't make enough money to pay the rent and to pay the overhead and pay everything else, everybody else gets paid first. Whatever's left over comes to me, right?
Yeah.
So if you want better for your family, you have to do more things. You have to take more chances. You have to see different things. And it's what do you want, you know, for your children? And I don't know very many parents, if any. I'm sort of making a joke. Every parent wants their children to have it better than they had.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just you want it that way. That's just the culture I grew up in and the generation that I grew up in. Today it's interesting. I think it's similar values, but I can't really tell because I don't think relationships are viewed the same. I don't know that there's that many people that are focused on I want to get married and I want to have children, you know, that they sort of plan out that. But that seems like the overall source of happy, which allows people to go out and be career happy. Sometimes it works the other way around. They made a lot of money and then they're chasing the relationship, or they wake up and they're 45 years old and they have a lot of money, but they're not fulfilled. So those things are important.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, because when I look at how I'm growing up in my own viewpoints, and then I kind of listen and observe the viewpoints of like how you grew up, I think in the past, like in the 60s and 70s, it was just common to get married young, have kids young, and then you still have your career. I know for me though, and I'm sure there's other kids my age who are on the same page as me, like right now I'm just focused on myself, just doing my own thing, getting started with my own career.
So in 10 years, do you see yourself thinking, oh, where am I going to be with family? I mean, do you see yourself, do you even ask yourself the question? I'm not trying to be, you know, personal, but I mean, you know, does that thought process enter into a 18-year-old's mindset right now?
Right now, no, because I believe that everything happens for a reason, good and bad, and right now just focus on the most important thing and be happy, and then all that other stuff, marriage and children, it'll fall into place when I'm ready and if I'm ready.
Or cosmically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very, very cool, very, very interesting. So do you think that in 10 years, you'll be 28?
Yeah.
So that's basically that will be a third of you're 2/3 to that now. You know, when you get there, are you open to that idea, or you don't know yet? You're just living in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's both. I'm living in the moment, but thinking about it too. I don't think at 28 I'd be ready to have kids, maybe to enter like a long-term relationship with a woman, maybe. With kids though, it's just time that you have to devote to them, and then you have your own stuff going on as well.
There's sort of like an internal clock. Certainly I think
Yeah.
females have it, males have it, and this isn't a gender specific or a wokey conversation or a conservative time of conversation. But I think that the nuclear family, as it was called, the 50s and the 60s, was different. The 60s, you had a lot of social awakenings. You had protests against Vietnam Wars, you had long hair, you had things that were sort of pushing the envelopes. And I grew up right on the edge of that. And then the 70s were more of, as you're describing, let me be me. Yeah. Well, me being me was, how do I make money? I don't have anybody to help me. Nobody's giving me any money. You know, it's like, got to earn money. And what do I want to do? I don't want to work. I want to do things that I like to do.
Yeah.
I do have regrets. If I were doing things differently and I had to go way back, I probably would have went to law school. You know, I probably would have went to law school because it gave me a foundation.
Yeah.
But for me, I was always in a hurry. Not like silly wise, but it's like, I'm smart enough to do this, but you want me to go for 3 years to hand me something, and I've got to pay you a great deal of money. During those 3 years, I could be earning and doing and going and living. That was I don't say a poor decision, but it's a decision that I wish I had thought harder about. And something that's also interesting to me, at 18, I was making decisions that I didn't realize are lifelong decisions. And at 18, I don't know that I'm equipped. I don't know that you're equipped to deal with those. So I used to always think about people like, you know, you smoke a cigarette. Once you've smoked a cigarette, you can never say, I've never done that. Does that make sense? You know, like I've done that, I made that choice, and once you do it, you can't undo that decision.
Exactly.
And at 18, you're sort of given these decisions all of the time. It doesn't matter whether it's, you know, drugs, marijuana, or something. I don't mean to go there. It's these decisions that we make at 17, 18, 19, 16, that you don't realize the important ones on how some of them can last your entire life.
I
right?
100% agree.
That's the one thing I think that doesn't change. Decisions you're making today will stay with you for a long time.
And you're thinking right now too, and what you've grown up with, I think, because once you become an adult, it can change. It doesn't change, though, how you were before or what you did in the past.
Well, and that's the other thing. When are you really an adult?
Yeah.
Well, the government, I guess, says you're an adult at 18, because that's when they used to, I don't know if they still draft into the Army or into the military, but okay, 18, you can vote. Okay, so you are considered an adult, a male or a female, or with all respect to all people, it doesn't really matter what the gender is, but you're considered an adult in America, right?
Yeah.
But you're making adult decisions at 18 that at 38, if you could look back and say, would I have made the same decision? Maybe, maybe not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would I have eaten all that food that tasted so good but was terrible for you, and then you don't, you know, you end up gaining weight, or you end up unhealthy, or you end up with this, or you didn't know if I kept eating red dye number whatever that, you know, you're giving yourself a higher risk for cancers or diseases or any of those things. You don't really know. But the smart thing is balance, live in balance, you know? So that's, I think we touched on it.
Yeah, and I do understand where you're coming from. I do want to add, though, what I've experienced myself and what resonates with me is not looking back at things with regret. Now, one of my teachers here was saying, all of you guys are going to look back
Which
at your...
teacher?
Mr. Roberts, an English teacher. He was like, all of you guys are going to look back at your high school careers and you're going to regret at least one thing. And hearing him, I was thinking, for me, I don't look at things like that, because even things that I've done in the past that I could have done differently or made a better choice, I just see it as like how that just made me a stronger and better person, and I use that to do better things. And I get that as you get older, there are things that get challenging, but I just focus on the positivity, because that takes me, and it could take anyone at a higher place than focusing on regrets or focusing on the negative.
Agree. I wish I could be more that way, but I'm not. I wasn't wired that way. And what your teacher said could be something Mr. Roberts said was something so simple as, you know, I really always wanted to play golf and try out for the golf team, but I'm too busy with other things. That could be a minor, insignificant regret, but it's still a decision you made at, let's say, 17, that you didn't do it. When you're 26, you should say, I should have tried it, because you're not in high school again and could make a golf team, or whatever type of thing. Something as silly as that. Or I really wish that I had traveled a little more, or I had the opportunity to go to the ski trip with the ski club in high school and I decided not to do it because I wanted to try something else. Those are minor, significant regrets. The tough ones are, like we talked about, is the right path for you or for a student? Should I go right into a 4-year crazy university that's going to economically challenge me? I'm going to take on debt to do it. I don't know what I really want to do, so why am I going to school to study to go get a degree just to get in that I'm now in debt for, and I still don't know what I want? That's the big risk, you know? So those are legitimate decisions, like we were talking about, that one has to make at 18 that could affect you for a long time. And then I had some people, and then there's a celebrity that did this. Well, let me go back to a story. I knew somebody when I was younger, and I remember seeing him because he was a friend's future brother-in-law. So the sister's boyfriend, and they ended up getting married, and he was studying like crazy for the bar exam. And I remember, well, we're going to see my sister and her future husband, and they're all there. And I realize we're walking in and I'm meeting these people. We're kind of disturbing them because they're cramming crazy for this bar exam. And he became a lawyer, was a successful lawyer, I met him like 5 years after, again, saw him afterwards, and what he did was he bought an awning company. Awnings.
Wait, what is that?
Awnings are covers over the edge of a wall to give you shade. So if you go looking, you'll see an awning, right?
Okay.
It's called an awning, right?
Very
This has
cool.
nothing to do with the law. He hated being a lawyer. So what the scary part is, wait, you studied like, I mean insane hours for a 6-month period after you graduated law school, basically 7 days a week, cramming and learning everything in, shoving it all into your mind and into your brain, teaching yourself how to think like a lawyer to pass a bar exam for which you work 3 or 4 years and then you realize this isn't for you. One of my oldest friends, I still play cards with them. I think next week we'll do it again. We do it every month. We try to. I have 3 very close childhood friends. And I say close in that we didn't see each other for many, many, many years, but you grow up with them, you have the same life experiences. And one of them was one of the brightest kids I knew. And I can tell you this because he's 17 months younger than we are. And he tested crazy on all the SATs. And he came from a very, very challenged economic environment. Father was on disability, mother was on disability, very, very challenged. He could not even afford the applications. That's how hard it was. Money didn't mean much to people, like, oh, you don't have, I have, oh, we'll share. You know, it's like that was kind of a concept.
Yeah.
And Mark went on to took a while, became a CPA and then a lawyer. And I was making a joke with him in that he went to Berkeley, and I asked him once, how much did your law degree cost? He said $500. I said, oh, $500 a year? Because, you know, things were cheap. No, 500 in total. So he's the recipient of the public's benevolence to people that work hard and that are challenged. He had scholarships and everything else. And Mark became the Titan lawyer at the big firm because he's a bright of bright. And his job in his own mind was, this isn't what I want to do, much like Bob. He worked his way all the way back down to a smaller and smaller firm. And then eventually he leaves doing that to become a trustee for 1 or 2 people. And that's kind of his life. He worked his way back down to the middle. He didn't want to chase what do they call it, the gold ring or whatever it is,
Yeah.
the brass ring, I think is the phrase. He didn't care. He wanted to find happy. So I think you're going at it sort of the other way. Which is probably the smarter way. Let me seek happy, and whatever comes will come, and I'll deal with it then. But ambition's a tough thing to suppress. You know, there's going to be ambition. So if you want to take your career into broadcasting to a different degree, you'll have to make that decision on where you're going to go. I mean, somebody's going to say, I'd like to hire you, you know, Amado, I'm going to hire you to go work in Podunk, Texas, in a very small market, and we'd like you to be a broadcaster for us, and we'd like you to do the weather at night. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to go do that? And then from there, you go to the next market. On Mostly Banter, we had on Keith Sterling. And Keith Sterling is I think the title is Associate City Manager. One day, I would assume he's so bright, he'll be the city manager, but he started life as a weather person, you know, his career.
Yeah.
So it sort of goes all over the place, you know, and happiness is the key. I don't know that I've ever found happiness, but I think, like I said, I found successes, ups and downs. I've had some low lows, I've had some high highs, but overall my successes for me was my family. So I didn't realize that until I had my family and moved forward with that.
Yeah, and about Mostly Banter. So when did you start that, and what motivated you to start that here at this high school?
Well, that's a story I've told, but I kind of go way back in that people would tell me I have this great voice. And every time I would play my own voice back on a tape recorder back in the day, or even when I record myself now, I'll hear myself and I sound to me nasally, I sound not a good, it's like not very good. I mean, and then I'll hear somebody else like Mark Thompson or Brian Phelps. Brian Phelps, we had on the Mostly Banter, which was the Mark and Brian radio show for 25 years in Los Angeles. Those guys have golden pipes. But everybody told me I have this great voice. So in early college, I was someplace, somewhere out, and some person walked up to me and said, I'm with the Columbia Broadcasting School. I'd like to give you a scholarship. I look at it, this is a scam. He's just trying to get money out of me or do it. So I showed up to try it out, and they're teaching me how to do reads and this and that. And again, my mind was always on, how is this going to cost me money? How is this going to work out?
Yeah.
Because all these people are paying to be here. And I was there for a very short period of time. It was on Sunset Boulevard.
Okay.
And that started it. You know, that kind of started it. Oh, I can do that. And then I went into a sports career for a little bit, representing athletes, you know, because that was my passion, was helping people and negotiating contracts, coming back to that law thing in sports. I met some great people. The great Tim Mead, just a lifelong friend, was a big executive with at the time, the California Angels. Now it's the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And I ended up, he pushed me into, well, if you like doing it, do it, and rolled into that. And it was always on my mind because I've had friends that are broadcasters. I met Roy Firestone. I won't call him a friend, but I would call him a acquaintance. We would have lunch a couple of times. I met the great Todd Donahoe, who was Mark and Brian's sports guy, and he had some shows. And these were broadcasters. And I'd watch what they do, and I go, oh, it's all right, it's kind of nice, but I don't want to start in Beaumont, Texas, or in some small town in Florida. That's not for me. So I just always avoided it. And then I've been very blessed, very fortunate, very lucky. All of these things, none of it are I'm good. Most of it is I'm lucky.
Yeah.
And I've had this incredible life. I've met presidents. I've met major celebrities. I've met major entertainment people. I've just been in this incredible life. So I've always been interested in what's your story. Not like train me to be a formal interviewer, just what's your story. So giving back, I would always come to career days at Beverly Hills High School because that was the Rotary thing to do. I love Beverly Hills Rotary, gotten more and more involved as time has gone on, and every year we would come to the high school. And candidly, I look around high schools, and most of the kids in high school are just as lost and as mopey and dopey as I was, you know, in school. And how do you light them up and to get passion to do it? So I said, well, I'm going to start talking to people, but I don't want to come talk about what I do. I don't want to come talk about here's how come this coin's more valuable than that coin, or here's why this was that, or here's how you could represent athletes or any of that stuff. I just wanted to encourage kids. Because most of the time you walk out and it's like, oh yeah, I heard this old man or this old woman or this old person talk about, you know, nursing. Maybe I'll be a nurse. That sounds terrible to me, you know. Or I want to be an electrician. To me, that sounds terrible. I'm fascinated by both of those things, nursing and electricians, but it didn't resonate with me. So what I wanted to do was I'm going to go into career day. And I know what the hook is to get people because I was actively working in sports and negotiating contracts as a certified Major League Baseball Players Association agent with experience representing football players prior to that into the NFL. So kids are going to come, mostly boys, because it seemed like there was a higher interest then for boys in sports. And now they're interested in what I have to say. And I met 2 years ago, I think, one kid, and I said, you know, hey, what would be good is one of these days, because I had done a brief podcast with Brandon Marcus, who's a sportscaster, a budding sportscaster. That's the guy that if you want to do the job, like I said, go take the job in low A ball in Idaho. Who the heck wants it? He was doing all of those different things. So we did a little sports podcast to start, and that lasted for about 50 episodes, but we didn't gain any traction because it was more for him gaining interview skills with people and guests that either he would bring on from NFL Network or people in my Rolodex that I knew from the sports world. And I got them to talk about other sports. So I had the great Frank Stallone. Do you know who Frank Stallone is?
brother of Sylvester Stallone,
Exactly,
right?
but
Yes.
more importantly, phenomenal award Grammy-winning musician, talented dude. But I don't want to talk about music with him. That's what he does. I want to talk about what he likes. So he's a boxing fan, so we talked about boxing. So I've always liked that. So I'm telling this story, and I forget the kid in the class says, I got somebody that would love to do this podcast with you if you would want to do it. So he put me in touch with Colby Galardian.
Oh.
And Colby called and said, hey, let's do this, and I'll help you do this. Now, Colby, who I just adore.
Yeah, he's the best.
He's the best, and he's just busy. He's just, I like him to calm down, not have as much on his plate, and focus. And as I tell him, you know, he'll be going to USC Annenberg, which is a phenomenal, very prestigious deal. And I always tell him, and I tell him now to you, it's going to be recorded. They're going to beat him into shape. They're not going to allow him to be, the word that popped into my mind is not accurate, sloppy. He's not sloppy. He's pulled in too many directions. He's just all over. So he's thinking, I want to get this thing done. So he's got 48 plates when he would be far better. Let me knock one plate off and deal with plate 2, then plate 3, plate 4. He's spinning 40 plates at one time. Annenberg and USC and college, that's what college will give him. Candidly, that's what college will give you and most kids, but they don't know that. Others, it's going to give, this is not for me. I want to go get something that I can learn a trade for. But Colby is awesome, and then we started doing the podcast, and we started it out with very simple equipment, and we still have just, hey, we have good equipment, which is important to get good sound quality, and started off with the people in Rotary, because I go, there's 100 people in here that have unbelievable stories that are all mini celebrities in Beverly Hills, all of them. Now, it's hard for you at 18 to relate to Les Bronte, who I saw earlier today. We're doing this on a Monday. I hope that's okay to say.
I do know him. He's also cool.
He's a very cool guy. Les is involved in so many charities, but he's been mayor of Beverly Hills. Well, I didn't know he went to school with a very famous musician named Herb Alpert. Herb Alpert, who you've never heard of, was a trumpet player. Very, very well known in the 60s. It was Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. And he probably had 5 to 10 major hits. But that's not what his legacy is. He formed A&M Records, and that was sort of the beginning of the boom of the record business, of music business. So it's like, and Les went to school with him. So it's like there's all of these stories that were there that need to be told. The grand scheme of Mostly Banter, if I elevate it and we take it, is I want to get the stories of all of the businesses and help elevate businesses in Beverly Hills so people know who's behind each business that is interesting. You know, who do we have on? We had a parent, a Beverly Hills High School parent on, Tommy, I can't think of Tommy's last name, Toy Shirt Chocolate. Just a really, really cool story. And I think I had something to do with, or our podcast had something to do with. He came on with his lovely wife, and they're partners in their business, and now they're doing a little podcast. And I don't want to say little as in diminishing it, but they started with snippets like 10 minutes of On the Road. And that's just great. So I love doing that. I love to know people's stories. So for me, it's not a venture to make profitable. As I told Colby recently, I was approached to. I should. I've been told by my incredible daughter, who's a social media executive, branding and marketing, to go do it that way because the concept's good. I guess I'm good enough to do it and really monetize it. But right now, it's good for what it is. You know, it's good for what it is, and that's kind of what I'm doing with it. What do you want to do with your show?
I want to make this into a career, make it into a profit. And because I'm not going to be at Beverly forever, so when I do graduate, I still want to continue with this and make it similar to what Oprah Winfrey does for a living, and how she just brings in, I don't watch all of her shows, but what I do notice is that she has brought in cool people, and she'll ask them questions about like their path, and then the celebrities that she brings in, they end up giving really good advice, and then she gives good advice herself as well.
So that's the fun part. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I used to say, well, when I was representing athletes, the negotiation of a contract, that's the fun part. That's not the work.
Yeah.
The work is what goes behind coming up with the numbers, getting the client, making the client happy, making sure that you explain everything to the client, doing all of that. So my questions for you would be, do you know Oprah Winfrey's story?
I do know a little bit of it.
Do you know what she started as in entertainment?
An anchor, I think.
Exactly. She was a weather person, if I remember right. And then she moved from a smaller market to Chicago area, and then she became, it's like I said, she grew it all the way up. But all along the way, she realized she had to grow a brand, and that she realized I have to own the intellectual property. Like in music, you see so many tremendously talented musicians. I can't speak to the musicians that you and I would both relate to today, but I assume you've heard of the Beatles.
Yeah.
Okay, and I say that not trying to be a smart aleck. Sometimes you could say no. Well, the Beatles were brilliant because they were managed by smart people who looked out for their best interest, and they owned the publishing. Okay? And when they lost some of the publishing, Paul McCartney had to buy his publishing rights back because that's where the money was. Have you ever heard of somebody named Buddy Holly?
I have, in a movie called La Bamba.
Correct,
Well,
but there's also, that was with Ritchie Valens, but Ritchie never became what Buddy Holly was. Buddy Holly had him come on the plane with him. Buddy Holly was the budding star, but it was a very short window. The publishing rights are where the money is at on all of that. Oprah kept her publishing and realized that. I need to own my content. You Amado, need to own your content. And you have to go from there. The benefit of you growing up in the cell phone age is everybody's their own journalist today.
Yeah.
You do not need formal training. That's good and that's bad. If you're in the music business, you do not need record companies. They actually have to come chase you as opposed to the other way around now once you've demonstrated via YouTube or any platform that you can sell or that people are interested in you. Those are the things that people have to focus on. I don't know at my age that I can do that with mostly banter. I might, I'm told I should, but we'll see. But for you, it's, make sure to know that the fun part's doing what you're doing now and what we're just chatting about now. The most important part is what's the business end of it and how do you monetize it?
Yeah.
For you, if you have your show, unfortunately, it's not like the old days that the record companies or a television program is going to buy your content and just go put it out there. I guess you could say YouTube is that, but you'd have to get a lot of people looking at it to make a $20 bill, right? Versus, okay, that's just a little supplement, but what if you had somebody that really wanted to sponsor your show? I don't know what other episodes that you've done, but if you could go get, what kind of shoes are we wearing?
Puma.
Puma. If we can get Puma to endorse your show and say, we'd like to pay you and we'd like to have you do content for us, and you're going to represent our shoe company, and we're going to give you X dollars for it. Now you're learning the business end of it. You have to negotiate the content. How long is this going to be for? Well, what if you're with Puma for 2 years and Nike comes along and says, we want you to only wear Nikes, no more Puma. You have all of these choices to make, and you have to live with those choices as you go. In other words, you want to throw Puma, who started with you when you were just starting out, under the bus for more money? Or how do you handle those types of things? Well, Oprah, coming back to her, appears, I don't know her, I've never met her, has navigated a career that started with I don't know if she's from poverty, but certainly from not a great deal of means.
Yeah.
As most people, myself, everybody, you come from some means, middle-class families or hardworking families, whatever it is, to a titan of American business. Just incredible story.
Yeah.
And paying it backwards. So that's kind of cool.
And you and Colby do have something in similar, because the fact that he's about to go to USC, what we were chatting about earlier, you talked about going to USC as well. So I was just curious for you, like, to dig deeper into that. It's like how you got into USC and what you did before that.
So, like I mentioned at USC, I graduated high school early, and I would go down and audit classes.
Yeah.
I didn't enroll, I just went and hung out down there, and the classes would end at, let's say, 1 or 2 o'clock. I need to get a ride home. How am I going to do this? It's not like Uber and Lyft don't exist, so
Yeah.
either I'm taking a bus home or I'll wait for somebody who's working downtown who I knew, somebody's dad from the neighborhood, or get a ride from this person or that person. I got to wait for them. So I go hang out with the football team, and they sort of, oh, this cute kid, I'm a high school kid, I've got a sort of boisterous personality. Oh yeah, come on in, help us carry the bags, carry the footballs in, carry whatever it was in. And I met a lot of those different guys, and I got to hang out down there. So it sort of started that culture for me. But mistake, instead of playing it forward and saying, I'm going to go to USC and I'm going to graduate from USC, I shortcutted it. I just said, no, let me just go earn my money. But I ended up so involved with USC because of my affinity for it. I would go to the games. I knew people in entertainment, so whenever they were doing broadcasting, they would help me with different things. Oh, you need to come see on the field. I've never been on the field. Come on the field. And then I met through Anthony Davis, who I met again in 1972 or 73. He would take me up to the press box, and then like I said, I met Ned Miller, a great mentor, who basically said, hey, you want to learn how to do defensive statistics, and there we go, because everything's a part of a team. It's not one person doing a whole game, it's defense, and I've just done that. I just sort of grasp onto that and have a talent for it, and sort of an analytical mind of how you watch it, and its judgment. Was it a single tackle, a solo, and an assist in the NFL, or a split, an equal tackle? And there's so many things, and it's all faster and faster. Then you meet these really, really nice people along the way. So you meet the sports information directors. You meet the head one, and then you meet all the associates. And you realize these are people who have a labor of love and love what they're doing, because they're certainly not paid a great deal of money, but they love USC. There's a common element there. So met some incredible people. I met Terry Smith. I've met, like I said, Ned Miller, Darcy Couch. Tim Teslin was the SID there for years and years and years. And I brought people in to learn how to do statistics, and they now do that with various different teams. And you just meet good people. I mean, I think of Valerie. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, Joe Reich. I mean, all these different people that you meet through USC. Dave Tuttle, was USC basketball forever, and he'd sit next to me. He sat next to me for probably 15 years or 20 years. Every time doing USC football, I'm doing the defense, and he's truly right next to me. So just a blessing of opportunity. I will give a piece of advice to everybody that Danny Arnold gave to me.
Okay.
When you judge people, if you have to lean on, are they cool or are they not cool, or where are they at? If they're nice to you when they're on top of the world, it seems more genuine. As opposed to when they're on the bottom, you need to make sure what the motives are. Are they trying to be, are they being nice just because they have to, because if they're nice, that way they can work their way all the way up? And I can tell you, I've met some people at USC that are all the way at the top, and they're just as nice as can be. And then, I've met some people in the bottom that are as nice as can be. But it made a lot of sense. But what I would gain or garner from that is, be nice to everybody all the time, and you're much better off. Mm-hmm. Understand, use your word respect. You don't want somebody to run over you or anything like that, but at the same point in time, sometimes you can walk away. People who know me are probably going to laugh if they hear this, because I'm not that guy. I was always looking to conflict. If you're looking to conflict, I'll engage. Far better to walk away and walk around and pick the smart road.
Yeah.
And I seem to always say, to quote a friend I just lost,
very sorry to hear.
Doug Creek was one of my favorite baseball clients. And Doug passed away recently of cancer at a young age, at 55. And Doug used to say to me, I get the gravel road.
Yeah.
I don't get the paved road or the cement road or the highway. I get the gravel road. But you know what? A gravel road's better than a dirt road, and a dirt road is better than no road. So I got it made, and that's a good way to look at things.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I feel like this also connects to the Rotary Club. So I was curious as to how you got involved with that, and I was doing some research as well, and there's all kinds of cool people, and I'm actually trying to get in contact with all those cool people and bring, if I can, all of them onto my show.
So you're going to emulate what Mostly Banter did. Good for you.
So how did that happen with you?
So I met via Abner, who I mentioned earlier, a man named Warren Ackerman, in that I had my store on Little Santa Monica and Wilshire. And it used to be a place called the Wilson's House of Suede was on the corner. It was an iconic place. It was suede jackets. It was the thing. And Jeff Wilson gave me my first lease. Didn't have very much money in the bank, but he took a chance on me. And from there, I built up my business. But my time there was going to be coming to an end because the Peninsula Hotel, where it is today, was my parking lot. It was actually a parking lot. So they're going to be building this hotel. Where are people going to park? And during construction, I need to find another place. Abner had retired or was retiring and had sold his store to somebody who was not doing well or was leaving or something like that. So I had the opportunity to lease that place. And the landlord, the owner, was Warren Ackerman. And he just took me on as a extra son or he just mentored me. And it was a great opportunity. And he said, you need to join Rotary. And Rotary then was, first it was mixed in that you had females and males, but it was very much business first. You had to be the top of your field to get in to a classification, and then philanthropic. That was the order. And Warren said, you have to come. I go, Monday's in the middle of the day. I don't have time. You must come. And at first, it was great because I would sit at his table and I'd meet all these great, fascinating, super successful people in Beverly Hills. And for me, that's heaven. Talk to older people who are brilliant and listen to smart speakers and learn things. And it still didn't resonate or grab onto me that the good Rotary was doing. Yeah, they inoculated the world of polio. Well, polio's coming back because people, I guess, are afraid of some vaccines. Others know, some things are, but who knows in this crazy political world. But they do all kinds of great things. And then you start realizing, wait, I'm sort of a part of this. Let me become a little bit more of a part of it.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, we have so many different people. I just made fun of her today, Cindy Rude, who came on my podcast. And Cindy, her passion is to build water wells for people that don't have even water in a place called Malawi, Africa. And I joke with her every time I see her. I do not care about water wells in Malawi, Africa, even a little bit. But I am really deeply touched that she does and that she's in an organization that I'm in. So if my abilities or rays of sunshine are to tell these stories, that's my help to it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's how I got into Rotary. I joined in 1989, I believe, 88, somewhere in there. My first meeting, I think, was 87. I stopped and dropped out in 1995 just because I couldn't get to every meeting. It was mandatory attendance back in the original day. If you couldn't make your meeting on Monday at a business or something, there's so many Rotary clubs all over, go make up someplace else. They did away with that in sort of the transition to it's much more philanthropic than it's ever been. It's more, hey, we want you to come. If you don't want to come, don't come. It doesn't matter about attendance, but the better, the more, the better, and the merrier. And it's very prestigious. It's a very cool place. You should come. Colby worked his little magic and had everybody fall in love with him and has become a member of Rotary, which is he's by far the youngest member that's ever been.
Wow.
Today, Victor Weiner and I were talking about it, and that they told him no. He was 23 back in the 70s, 1970s. You're too young. So he had to wait. I was, I want to say, 26, 27, right in there. Maybe 25, somewhere in that age group. So it was like older, and I was considered a very young member. And it's just great. It's interesting. I'm now one of the old timers, but I'm not. There's so many people that are even older and younger than I am. There's great people there. And there's great people doing great things all over the place, you know. Your job will be tell their story, or more importantly, have them tell your story. Have them tell you their story. You know what I mean? And you got to get it out of people. You can't, for what you're doing, just be the, oh, I'm fascinated with it, because that's what I do, right? It's like, oh yeah, just tell me, because there's nothing in it for me. For you as a career, as you want to do it, you need people to tell the stories. And you can see the ones that are clearly great at it. Oprah Winfrey was great at it. She was a great interviewer. Look at the people that do CBS Sunday mornings. Oh, the Hartman. I forget his first name, but he always does these touching shows, you know. He always gets these people, sometimes he has his own child on, but he'll always have a redeeming story. And it's just awesome.
Joe Rogan?
Who?
I don't know for sure.
No, Joe Rogan's a podcaster. No, on CBS Sunday Morning, it's Hartman is his last name.
Okay.
And I think, I don't want to say it's Phil, but it's Hartman, I know that's his last name, and he does one of the segments every week on CBS Sunday Morning, and it's just fantastic, you know. And watch some of the 60 Minutes people on their stories, on how they tell their stories, and learn from what they do. And hey, don't do what I didn't do. Stick with broadcasting. If you go to college, do the broadcasting. If you go to a 4-year college beyond that, stick with that. If you go into a trade school part of it, great. I don't know that one exists like what I was, the Columbia School of Broadcasting, but there's got to be something today that's far better than that, and that was great at its time, because now we've got so many different platforms. I know that that Adam Carolla, who's a very well-known podcaster, he's kind of one of the original podcaster people. I still think he's the top 50 podcast. I think that's the ratings on it. He'll have a podcast, you pay for it, sort of seminar, and he'll do it at like the Irvine Improv. And you go take the class. They'll talk about microphones, a better microphone or a worse microphone. They'll talk about sound. They'll talk about how you build the market, how the podcast networks work, how all of those things work. Even if you don't choose to do them, you need to know them for the business end of it.
Yeah.
At least in my mind.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, and be you. You know, be you, and get people to be them to you. If you could have a guest on, anybody in the world, who would you have?
Let's see. I'd for sure want to have a celebrity.
No, not a celebrity. Who? You gotta pick one.
And it can't be a celebrity at all.
Could be anybody.
Okay.
Anybody.
I'd want to do Percy Miller, Master P. And the reason I say this is because I unexpectedly met him last year. Like, I'm walking home and I see him on South Santa Monica in Bedford, and he's coming out of this postal office, and I'm like, yo, Master P. And then he's like, what's up, man? And then I'm like, how are you doing? And then he's like, I'm doing good. And like, he's on the phone, and then I'm telling him how I liked his movie Uncle P. And then he's like, thanks, man. And then I'm like, you're an inspiration to people. And he's like, thanks, man. And then he's like, I'll see you later, homie. And then I learned from Mr. Carey, our KBEV teacher, how his son, not only did his son go here, I don't know if his son graduated here, but his son talked to my teacher. His first name is Romeo.
Right, Romeo.
Yeah, and his son, being named Romeo Miller, goes up to Mr. Carey and is like, what's up, little Romeo?
Yeah, very cool. So you make that happen. That's not an unattainable get. I think you can have that ready. Have your contact information on a card or something, or on a QR code or something that he could just scan. If you bump into somebody, or him specifically, say, listen, I'm a budding podcaster. This is my career. Is there any way I can get you either for a Zoom meeting, a Zoom interview or something like that, and you can make your decisions accordingly. That's a reasonable get. I was sitting at a restaurant and Piers Morgan walked by. I go, he'd be nice to be cool to talk to. I thought you would tell me somebody like, I like Barack Obama.
Oh.
Right? I'd like Donald Trump. I'd like, Kamala Harris. I would like somebody like that. That's who I thought you would tell me at 18. Because at 18, that's who I would have been. But at the same point, it doesn't surprise me, because for me, it would have been some of the musicians in the band Queen. Have you ever heard of Queen?
Yes, I love Queen. I do.
Okay, because that's one of those bands that have still, they've worn the test of time beautifully. You know,
Yeah.
they've lasted. Brian May is the guitarist, and Freddie Mercury, he's no longer with us. He's long passed. They did a movie about it. Somebody like that, that's what I would have said at 18. How do I talk to that person? But for me, it was always about their story, not about their fame.
Exactly.
You know, it's always about, like, how did you get here? What was it like? What was your journey like? And was it a fun road? Because at the end of the day, if somebody dumped a boatload of cash on you, and you might go, this is the greatest, but free stuff isn't as good as when you have to get there, because the path is much is where it's at. Again, I didn't learn that till later in life. You know, it's like the path is, enjoy the journey, because, you know, that if you're not enjoying the ride, it's not a good deal, because at the end the reward is just the reward. To get to the reward's the key. So that'll be fun. So, and go get them. You know, Master P. Right?
Yeah, Master P.
Master P. And he's one of the original rappers.
Well, okay, I know a little bit about him. I don't know too much, but I'd say yeah, he's an original rapper. He's
Run DMC and those guys.
Yeah, he's definitely old school. Like, I'm sure there's kids my age.
Like 70s and 80s. 80s
more
and
like
90s?
more like 90s, early 2000s, around that time.
Okay, yeah. I mean, those are gettable. I'm sure it's gettable. I mean, who was the one that sort of flamed out? MC Hammer. Okay, I mean, his story would be a phenomenal story to tell. You know, phenomenal story. He was an Oakland A's bat boy in Oakland. You know, what's the story getting to where they were? I mean, there's so many of those stories to tell. And, you know, how do you get them? How do you, you know, why would they do it? What's in it for them? Is there publicity in it for them? Understand, if he's doing the Amado show or if he's doing Mostly Banter, there's no payment for it. There's publicity, but that's how it works, right?
Yeah.
So if you have 100 listeners, that may not warrant somebody doing it other than they want to help you as an individual. If you have 100,000 people listening, more people are going to want to be on or listen because there's a benefit to that, right? Which is sort of what I was telling you, Mostly Banter. If a business is in Beverly Hills, like we haven't released it yet, it'll come out, Sweet Angela's Bakery. Her story's a phenomenal story. She's in the Rodeo collection. She's this incredible bakery, unbelievable stuff, and it's a great story. Well, because there's so many listeners now to Mostly Banter, not millions, but there's so many listeners, it will remind people when they hear it, oh, let me go check that place out. So it drives business. So it's something in it for her to do the podcast, and there's something in it, in my mind, for me, because then people get to hear it.
Yeah.
Right? And same with you. Have you done any students from here?
I have, yes.
Who have you had?
Like variety, like I'll say two in particular. Like, one of them is into politics, and then they both are interested in becoming lawyers. And actually, again, my teacher was telling me, you know, just you having those 2 student interviews, like, you may not know it now, but they could become something big time later on, and then you get to say,
I interviewed them when they were in high school, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's the I knew them when, and more importantly, everybody evolves. Believe me, I am a completely different person today than I was when I was your age.
Yeah.
And I wish I could go back and correct or tweak some other things to make the things that I'm good at better, and the things that I'm not so good at, de-emphasize those and focus on, like we were originally talking about, you know, hey, how to be happy and do and adjust and do those kinds of things. But it will be interesting. They'll become lawyers or doctors or whoever, but it's kind of cool. Are you planning on having more students? Yeah,
just anyone that I see who would be a good fit, even teachers as well, just as many people as possible. And I produced about 19 shows last year, so to possibly do more this year, like, just gonna make it happen.
Yeah, there's stories wherever you look.
Yeah.
You know, find a story, find a teacher that's a story. You mentioned Mr. Roberts. What's his story? You know, what's he do when he's not here? You know, is he married, kids? Maybe he doesn't want to share, or maybe he wouldn't want to come on. But, you know, hey, you meet people, and all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, he loves cars. I didn't know he loves cars. What kind of cars? Oh, I like classic cars. I work on cars. I do this. I go to car shows. What? You know, it's like those are there's a story everywhere you go.
Yeah.
I'm not so much of a story anymore. I'm old news, but it's a life well lived when you can touch as many people as you can, and I think that you're off to a good start with that. So I think it's great.
Thank you. And you may say that you're old news, but I disagree. I think despite that you may be a lot older than I am, you're still doing very well for yourself. And I've enjoyed meeting you on the show and hearing about you. So
same here. I'll come back anytime if you want me to come back, and it's all good.
yeah, you're still current and you're still doing very well as well. So thank you for being on the show, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
And that's it for the Amado Lucero show. Stay tuned in. All right.
Cool. Good? How
Yeah.
long did we go? Oh, wow.
Let's see. Oh,